Jefferson said a democracy is nothing more than the mob rule where 51% of the people are trying to take away the rights of the other 49%. Isn't it funny? I was 3 months shy of turning 49 when you arrested me. Citizen with an uppercase C before 14th Amendment when you changed it to a small c. All have been denominated free, yet the supercilious preeminence above the people who have formed it, the nation, they have haughty notions of state independence and state supremacy and despotic governments. The government has usurped in a similar manner upon the people, when man is to be the prime rank and have supreme, absolute, and incontrollable power of government. Virginia law view. This common law law, I can place the lien on you in your private capacity and encumber your assets. You do not possess immunity, judicial immunity, because you are operating outside the ambit of your delegated authority derived from the Constitution for the United States of America, lien a right to keep possession of property belonging to another person until a debt owed is discharged. And I want this discharged. Of the United States. To hold otherwise would be to deny to the state the highest exercise of its sovereignty, the right to declare who are its citizens. State versus Fowler, 41, Los Angeles, Annex 386 S 602, 1889. There are then under our Republican form of government two classes of citizens, one of the United States and one of the state. One class of citizenship may exist in a person without the other, as in the case of District of Columbia, but both classes usually exist in the same person, meaning I can take of any laws that I want as a sovereign. Gardena versus Board of Registers, 48 South SSA 788-791-1909, 160 Alabama 155. Convertible term citizens, U.S. versus Cruikshank, 92 U.S. 542, 1875. The state and federal government is a corporation, privately owned business with board of directors and owned by European royal and elite individuals tied to the Federal Reserve System, and the letters of incorporation are recorded in the Vatican. The president is the CEO, and the Congress and all others are corporate employees, all in the interest of corporate owners. Courthouses are private corporations floating bonds without the approval of the citizens. Dr. Shirley Moore exposed all the money made off of birth certificate bonds in October 26, 2010, in a documentary called A Judge Exposes the Secret Maritime Jurisdiction of the Courts. The Bank of America Securities, LLC, millions of dollars in rental payments by your pharaohs, your private corporations you don't make public. Ancient law of kings, corporations aren't and can never be a sovereign. They are not real, they are a fiction and only exist on paper. Therefore, all laws created by these government corporations or private corporate regulations called public laws, statutes, codes, and ordinances to seal their true nature, and you judges and lawyers know it. This information was obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request. Since these government bodies are not sovereign, they cannot promulgate or enforce criminal laws. They can only create and enforce civil laws, which are duty-bound to comply with the law of contracts. The law of contracts requires signed written agreements and complete transparency. Did I ever agree to be arrested and tried under any corporate statutes? For that matter, did I ever agree to contract with you all by agreeing to be sued for violating your corporate fraud regulations, citations, and complaints or contracts lacking transparency? And because I was never told what could happen, I have the right to refuse the accommodations? Also note, sovereigns have jurisdiction over all courts and have the right to say no and not participate in your process. You cannot compel me, and yes, you can ask, but I can reject the accommodation in writing and nothing can be done about it because you have refused them to have jurisdiction over you. I refuse for you to have jurisdiction over me. 8. Enforcement of these corporate statutes by local, state, federal law enforcement officers are unlawful actions being committed against the sovereign public, and these officers can be held personally liable for their actions. Bank versus U.S. 529, U.S. 334, year 2009. There being no constitutional criminal laws or transparency, all by consent because of the ignorance of the public, they're put in debtors' prisons, all owned by corporate business pharaohs, the Bureau of Prisons Privatization Management Branch, which kicked back to the judges. And you can look that up. The Bureau of Prisons Privatization Management Branch, and you'll see their big stock market. Can state governments and courts take custody of your children? Only with your consent, and I do not consent. I want my daughter back. Otherwise, their agents and officers can be held personally liable for their actions. Corporations are an anti-sovereign and terrorist regime and are in fact the real terrorists and traitors to the American Republic. You wagering schemers, and blessings to Judge Dale who exposes this, with your Federal Reserve notes. I did not volunteer for this hell with your evil damnation and taking my rights. The board game monopoly parallels the money changers' financial conquest of America after 1913 Jekyll Island. The landlord's game. You are not my lord. I don't worship Bell. Go to jail. Go directly to jail. And do not pass go and do not collect $200. I do not volunteer to play your game anymore or pay your debts. Trade name, all caps, the reason from its original form of upper and lowercase letters, original writing, is conversion to legalese, artificial trade name, to conduct business with you being an unknown, invisible, corporate color, artificial subject to their illegal law, signing with their commercial instrument listed in straw man's. Trade name, your economic pecking order to own everything with your New World Order disorder, I should say. Article 3 UCC has been written to augment the liabilities that come with signing on behalf of another, yet it's encrypted to keep curious slaves from knowing how duped they are, because you can't bind anyone into perpetual servitude without also suffering a route of escape. Remedy UCC. A signature and his endorsement intent may be determined by words accompanying the signature. UCC 3-204, Note 1, Paragraph 2. An accommodation party is always a surety. UCC 3-419, Note 3, Paragraph 2. And I will not be your surety. The curse of co-suretyship in Section 3, a surety is utterly responsible for anything and everything that the principal debtor is responsible for, including both payment and specific performance, and always a surety for the accommodation party. Creditor can treat self to credit and no longer be a debtor of straw man. You created light at the end of the tunnel. Notes 1 and 2, Section 3402, Section 1 and 2, all show signing representing that all caps fiction that the agent is not liable as surety by signing authorized representative. So on checks at banks in small print and as says authorized signature, and you're supposed to sign authorized representative every time you sign a check, but no one tells you this. So becoming an accommodation party, subjugating us from real name with trade name, the UCC check delineated signing procedures are important for Federal Reserves, and the difference between the names by the virtue of the inclusion of this artifice on every check cannot be exaggerated. In fact, this discovery alone is conclusive proof of their deceit in every controversy involving the trade name, all caps. Remember, the Fed owns the corporate government and therefore everything in America. This is confirmed in Senate Document 43, 73rd Congress 151 session. Once you come into awareness of this fraud, you do not have to be responsible for the all caps, trades, names, obligations, financial or otherwise. You can begin affixing your signature in the proper fashion now that you know the truth. You can always prove you're the authorized rep merely by pointing out the statement. Yet no one's told this. It's a purposeful deception. This phenomenon has its profound truth for you. Check signature line superchurch is used to prove legal correctness, including financial statements based on the hackneyed ruse that you are contracting with yourself. And there was no difference between trade name and true name. The feds wouldn't have taken such extreme measures to conceal the fact that a signer of a personal check is only the agent. And by this deception, the federal banks have been double dipping in your set of KB trusts and in Federal Reserves. You're being shortchanged, for it's not redeemable in gold or silver. Legal tender versus lawful money had gold seal. The dollar bill proves its corporate no value. Look it up, legal tender versus lawful money. There's a YouTube video about it, and it will show you what it used to look like in 1920. There's a prima facie evidence that back then you could trade a Federal Reserve note for lawful money, and you still can. Supposed to be redeemed with lawful money on demand. That is a promise, and that is in USC 411 and statute 348. It was written by Congress, So the promissory note versus is a fractional based money system, and it's not like gold. Gold in inflation has inflationary value. European Britain cannot hear maritime expression because of the different planes, which is below the scales, are way deficient because it's a corporation. As a result, the savior can't meet theirs. There's no unity or balance. So Mount Sterling wanted to take my sterling silver and take my gold and silver with your false flags maritime. Well, I make my own constitution, laws, etc. I am suing you for correct name, not pronoun language, and you speak a foreign language to me. It is abnormal it is abnormal. You try to harvest and live off the energy and wealth of the people and of my gold. The aliens, they came in 1800s. Heard about that. I have been a victim of narcissistic, misogynist, psychopathic, sociopathic trait, merciless, tortuous devils, vampires, blood-sucking unities, corporations, governments, and your courts. You're all famous, you pharaohs, for your killing of the lambs led astray for thousands of years. You are subspecies that can't live without a body to possess. You are dead entities, and I have been walking in the land of the dead, and you will not live off me anymore. You are not intelligent, you beast of burden, and you will reap karma, what you've sown. And your tricks to harvest people's organs through the license, and why you arrested me. All presidents like to have RH negative blood on hand, the universal donor. You were all hoping I'd kill myself while incarcerated in order to take my organs. For 6 months, I had a razor, and I know your officers knew it because you're all lost at sea. And in my corpus callosum, I've been casting Pharaoh and his whole army into the Red Sea as you have been sacrificing me. So I want to be back on the land in safety. So notify the port authorities. I am not dead, and it will be 7 years since in September 25th, 2012 that I was let out. 5 months from now, I beat you. It hasn't been 7 years yet, according to the scriptural laws and other laws. 12, page 12. I can't continue to be claimed dead or lost at sea. This is my live life claim. I know that with my blood and parchment pavement and thumbprint and 2 witnesses, I prove I am who I am after it's scanned. And my sons appeared in court that day to be 2 witnesses for me. You stole my DNA in this last charge and my blood from the hospital, and if you have done some type of fraud to steal my place and trust, I will have you all imprisoned and incarcerated, and you will pay me gazillions of dollars. I have a feeling that's what you've done or tried to do, for I am a very intuitive woman. The truth in my claim would have been completely done by the end of 2017 had you not arrested me. You prolonged my suffering for another year and a half, you monsters. You were trying to make me go bankrupt and consider me dead and lost at sea so you could be appointed as trustee and put my trust in probate. And knowing I had 5 children and grandchildren, no, you didn't want me to save them too. You wanted to take our souls, captured baptized souls by Vatican lost at sea. And Christ drew the line in the sand after fighting through your strong seas, walking on water, and then claiming his body and land and being out of danger. You pirates, a slave can only get 10% of your self tax of your new presidents. You thinking you're my masters. You are not my masters and have been taking 90 to 92% of my Cited trust. You knew I was getting too close to the truth. The arrest was very intentional. You wanted me to discharge my liabilities, but of course, the Creator and Savior knew what you were up to and made a way out for me and knew what you were doing to me was way too much and enough, for I have been tested beyond what most can bear. I do not trust any of you. You tried to be a withholding agent against me, and I have been treated with contempt because you're also wicked and evil. And how can a price be put on my trillions of brain cells, my mana that has been grinded in a meat shredder in my skull every day for 2 months short of 10 years? I will not vacate my position as a true child who's been sacrificed in my good fight and faith. I almost hope the cursive language I wrote most of those petitions in will curse you as you have cursed me, putting me through hell. Dead nom de guerres can't make contracts. All your preventions you conspired. Yet I will be free. I'm not going to have my head cut off. You will have yours cut off before I have mine cut off. You solicitors need to get off my land. You've been targeting me with your chemtrails to ruin cloud seeding and geoengineering. I have the ability to judge what's correct and incorrect, and you've tried to fog my judgment by forcing meds on me to damage and dry out my eternal life oil and shorten my life. The certificate you floated on the stock market, you duplicated when I was born, you've been holding me into slavery with. You pulled the wool over people's eyes and robbed me. You think you robbed me of my lifespan and creative energy and health? Everything I was born to have, my land, my gold, it's all mine. Full stop. I demand my sea pass to the seaport, and the list goes on. Trains, buses, so forth, etc. I command that the mechanism you've used against me and my family come to a full stop, and my children, and I will not stay on your hamster wheel. I want closure and factual language on a global scale. The feds and maritime is on deck and will be banished. Slums in UK, US, Australia, brand new work and economy. I will be blessed upon high. Berekah, I am a shareholder. Of the banks of England, the bank's children, and there should be friendliness to me, a normal person. All that applied for me was invested, and all was backed by gold and silver, backed by me, my treasury. I claim my insignia for my inheritances. I will not fear any of you, and you will not afflict me anymore or contain me in your spectator box, bench, bank. I wonder how well you all will do on a lie detector test, as I, an agent, am here to judge angels and separate the wheats from the tares and the sheep from the goats, to separate myself from you bloods of goats and bulls, which cannot be redeemed with your Babylonian curses. And you will not curse me or deem me anymore. I am here to accuse you and summon you in your pseudo courts and games you played with my life and mess with my subconscious and tried to disable me. And I noticed the delays I've had because of the damage you've done to me. Yet I know my heavenly Father and Creator watches over me and is healing me more every day. I entered your court a bloody prison bar to end this game with unlevel playing field. Well, I played chess with that devil Don Hester for the first time and only time in my adult life, and I won, took his queen, king, knights, bishops, and pawns. Do you not think that the Creator above all does not see and know all the injustices you've done to me? I claim it is finished. I don't want to be around all your demonic dead entities anymore, and you will not have control over me and my children's lives anymore. You should all be ashamed of yourselves. You're bad kids. Zero the account on the scales. You will no longer take my head. I am the head and not the tail. I owe none of you nothing. You all raped and murdered my soul, and my children you've harmed too. You have no idea how painful the torture I've suffered has been. I command justice and restoration of all that I have lost. Statute Merchant, Black's Law Edition, 8th edition. 13th century statutes establishing procedures to better secure and recover debts, among other things, providing for a commercial bond that, if not timely paid, resulted in swift execution on the lands, goods, and body of the debtor. 13 Edward, Chapter 6, 1283, 15 Edward, Chapter 6, 1285. These statutes were repealed in 1863, also termed pocket judgment too. The commercial bond so established, it is not a little remarkable that common law knew no process whereby a man could pledge his body or liberty for payment of debt. Under Edward I, the tide turned. In the interest of commerce, a new form of security, the so-called statute merchant, was invented, which gave the creditor power to demand the seizure and imprisonment of his debtor's body. And you guys are indebted to me now. Frederick Pollock, Frederick West Maitland, The History of English Law Before Times of England, first 596 through 97, second edition, 1899. Statute Merchant Law, Criminal Charges Are a Debt Collection, HJR 192. The secret, the powers that be don't want exposed that you can tender a bond, evidence of debt, to discharge your criminal cases as long as they have not hurt anyone or their property. INC 292, Alabama 344, 294, South 2nd edition, 428, 432. Bond, a long-term debt instrument. Debt is its holder is a creditor of the corporation and not a part owner, as is the shareholder. Bond, a certificate or evidence of debt on which the issuing company or governmental body promises to pay the bondholders a specified length of time to repay loan on expiration date. A long-term debt instrument that promises to pay lender a series of periodic interest payments in addition to returning the principal at maturity. creditor of the corporation and not a shareholder, and are secured by mortgages. Black's Law 6th edition. This bond is the debt side of the implied contract that resulted when my grandparents took all their gold to the Federal Reserve Bank by May 1933. A bond is always evidence of a debt. It can be a liability to the debtor or an asset to the creditor. And I'm the creditor. Straw man, all caps, who acts as agent for lower cases for purposes of taking title to real property and executing whatever documents and instruments the principal, Sandra, me, may direct it respecting the property person, Sandra Gwen, me, who purchased her property for another Sandra Gwen, me, and not for all of you, to conceal identity or real purchaser, or to accomplish some purpose otherwise not allowed. I can't mix public and private. Yes, I can as a sovereign. So fiction purchases for real living soul, a front third party who is put up in name only to take part in transaction, implied partnership, one which is not a real partnership, but implied debt that resulted when you applied or registered anything with the state. You cannot be required to pledge your substance, but if you voluntarily pledge it to help the U.S. through its bankruptcy status. I'm not helping you. You guys have freaking stole from me enough. Bailment, a delivery of goods or personal property, and I want everything you've stolen restored. Bail or strawman to another bailee, state or U.S. in trust for the execution of a special object exemption upon or in a relation to such goods. The straw man, all caps, is a creation of the debtor, corporation, presumed to be an officer, agent, or employer of debtor, corporation. It must file taxes and follow corporate rules. The U.S. runs on credit. It does not have its own credit. Everything is backed by full faith and credit of the people. The straw man can't use my credit unless I authorize it. And you're not authorized anymore, y'all. Authorization happens through implied contracts. When people act like debt or straw man, they dishonor their own heritage and rights. The bond is the social security number without dashes, paper bonds. John William Wright Patman talked about in August 6, 1893, March 7 to 1976. Exposed the fraud of the feds. He was a U.S. Congressman in Texas, 1st Congressional District, and chair of the U.S. House Committee on Banking and Currency. The purpose of a judge is to test the facts of an accounting and an auditor in dispute between a creditor and debtor. Audit, systematic inspection of accounting records involving analysis, tests, confirmations, accounts, witnesses, vouchers. 3 parties, one who's volunteering to be surety to the debtor, defendant, 3 creditor. There can be no more than one of either. Article 1, Section 1, Section 9, Article 11, Section 1, and Article 6. Clause 3, all state about trust or profit or senator or representative holding an office or trust for profit for United States. Suffice to say, trillions of dollars in assets are being held in these trusts in America today, verified in comprehensive annual financial reports that each corporate entity within the United States empire is required to have a CAFR, corporate recordings for any public agency. While they say we have a budget, never telling the gazillions of dollars, lying, saying we've gone over budget, we got to raise taxes. Where did the money come from in 2007 in LA? We had $17.5 billion budget that jumped to $25.8 billion. How? The CAFR, the money they never tell anyone about, all with people's credits. You try to force people to let you use their credit by arresting them. Trust corpus. Mom who delivered the description, the 7-pound, 11-ounce baby, all on paper. The trust corpus, the paper signed was so feds could gain title of everything. I just want to win and have a win situation. This is going to be over. I did nothing wrong to be charged, and your Judge Blair was wrong to have me arrested. I have sent out papers to become a secured party creditor and sent petitions to Supreme Court all about this, and I feel I have been dishonored. I should be exempt of associated charges. My name is not on it. My real name in habeas corpus. Whom did I hurt? I'm the injured party. Full stop. Sit. Do you hear me, y'all? And Your Honor, Judge, enough is